In a world dominated by men, one woman stands out as an eternal symbol of power, intelligence, and intrigue. Her name echoes through time: Cleopatra VII, a ruler who knew how to play the game of politics, charm, and war with unmatched skill. Born to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a family of Greek descent that ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great, Cleopatra's rise to power and her alliances with two of Rome's most famous figures, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, would change the course of history. But Cleopatra's story is more than one of romance and seduction, as legend often portrays it. It's the story of a queen who struggled to keep her nation free from the growing influence of the Roman Empire, all while navigating a world of treachery, civil war, and the ultimate collapse of the Egyptian kingdom. In this journey through Cleopatra's life, we will uncover the woman behind the myth, exploring her sharp intellect, her political prowess, and the forces that shaped her reign. Cleopatra was born in 69 BCE in the Egyptian city of Alexandria. As a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, she belonged to a family of Greek origin that had ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years. The Ptolemies were the successors to Alexander the Great, and they had maintained their power through alliances with Rome, a growing empire that was spreading across the Mediterranean. But Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, was not a particularly strong ruler. His reign was filled with corruption, mismanagement, and an ever-growing dependency on Rome for support. The people of Egypt had little love for him, as he was seen more as a puppet of Rome than a true Egyptian ruler. His rule was marked by his attempts to regain control over Egypt's economy, which had suffered due to excessive taxes and mismanagement. By the time Cleopatra was born, Egypt was on the brink of collapse, with a weakening dynasty and a crumbling political structure. When Ptolemy XII died in 51 BCE, the throne passed to Cleopatra and her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. However, this shared rule soon became contentious. Cleopatra, who was just 18, was intelligent and politically astute, but her young brother, only 10 years old, was manipulated by the royal court into believing he should have sole control. Cleopatra's reign was challenged by this rivalry, and she was eventually driven into exile. This was the moment Cleopatra understood that survival in this political climate would require more than just royal blood. It would require strategy, alliances, and the courage to fight back. Exiled from Alexandria, Cleopatra did not simply wait in obscurity. She quickly recognized that her best chance to reclaim the throne would be to gain an ally with immense power. That ally would come in the form of Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome. In 48 BCE, Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria, pursuing his rival Pompey the Great, who had fled to Egypt after losing the Battle of Pharsalus. Cleopatra, knowing that Caesar could provide the support she needed, took a daring step. She had herself smuggled into the palace wrapped in a carpet, or some say a sack. When the carpet was unrolled, Cleopatra presented herself before Caesar, unannounced and unashamed. The young queen, with her intelligence, charm, and commanding presence, immediately caught Caesar's attention. Cleopatra's audacity, coupled with her political acumen, impressed Caesar. She did not just appeal to him as a woman, but as a ruler capable of maintaining her kingdom's independence in the face of Roman dominance. Within days, Caesar and Cleopatra struck a deal. Caesar would help her regain her throne, and Cleopatra would align Egypt with Rome. The battle that followed saw Cleopatra's forces victorious. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, who had led opposition against her, was killed in the ensuing conflict, and Cleopatra returned to the throne. Caesar, who had already been entangled in his own political struggles in Rome, saw in Cleopatra not only a useful ally but a woman with whom he could form a lasting bond. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar's relationship became both a political alliance and a personal affair that would have far-reaching consequences for both Egypt and Rome. They had a son, Ptolemy Caesar, known as Caesarion, who Cleopatra claimed as the rightful heir to the throne of Egypt. With Caesar's backing, Cleopatra solidified her rule over Egypt. But while Caesar was in Alexandria, Rome was unraveling. Back in Rome, Caesar had enemies within the Senate who believed he had become too powerful. In 44 BCE, just a year after his affair with Cleopatra, Julius Caesar was assassinated by his own senators. His death sent shockwaves through the Roman world, and Cleopatra was once again faced with a political void. Her son, Caesarion, was now a potential target of Caesar's political enemies. Cleopatra's future was uncertain without Caesar's protection. Despite the dramatic political changes in Rome, Cleopatra's resolve never wavered. She knew that her survival would depend on securing another powerful Roman ally, someone with both the military might and political influence to protect Egypt. Following Caesar's death, the Roman Empire was thrust into a power struggle between Caesar's assassins and his loyalists. One of the most powerful of these loyalists was Mark Antony, a general and political figure who had been closely allied with Caesar. Mark Antony, along with Caesar's adopted heir Octavian, fought for control of Rome. Cleopatra, seeing an opportunity, decided to approach Mark Antony. She knew that his ambitions in the East could align with her own desire to secure Egypt's independence from Rome. In 41 BCE, Cleopatra met Mark Antony in the city of Tarsus, located in modern-day Turkey. Cleopatra made her arrival in spectacular fashion. She sailed up the river Cydnus in a lavish barge, dressed as the goddess Venus, surrounded by luxury and beauty. This dramatic entrance captivated Antony, who was immediately drawn to her. Their meeting was not just a romantic one, it was a political alliance forged through mutual ambition. Antony sought Cleopatra's wealth, her support in the eastern Mediterranean, and the loyalty of Egypt. Cleopatra, for her part, sought Antony's military strength and his ability to help her secure her throne and protect her son, Caesarion. Their union, both personal and political, led to a series of victories. Cleopatra had 3 children with Antony, twins, Alexander Hellenistic and Cleopatra Selene II, and later a third, Ptolemy Philadelphus. Cleopatra's ambition for her children was clear: they would become the rulers of a revived Egyptian empire, a dynasty to rival the power of Rome itself. With Cleopatra and Mark Antony's growing power, Rome became increasingly alarmed. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, saw the alliance between Antony and Cleopatra as a direct challenge to his authority and the future of the Roman Empire. He used Antony's relationship with Cleopatra to discredit him, painting him as a traitor to Rome who had been seduced by the wealth and power of Egypt. In 33 BCE, Octavian declared war on Antony and Cleopatra. The political and military tension reached its peak, and both sides prepared for an inevitable confrontation. Cleopatra, knowing that the battle would decide the future of Egypt, committed herself to Antony's cause, providing him with the resources and troops necessary for the impending conflict. The two armies met at the Battle of Actium, a naval confrontation that would forever alter the course of history. The Battle of Actium took place in 31 BCE, off the coast of Greece. It was a decisive moment in the conflict between Antony and Octavian. Cleopatra, leading her fleet, had hoped that she and Antony could outmaneuver Octavian's superior naval forces. But the battle was a disaster for Antony and Cleopatra. Their fleet was decisively defeated, and their forces were scattered. Cleopatra and Antony's retreat marked the beginning of the end for their reign. The Egyptian queen's once powerful kingdom was now on the brink of collapse. Octavian's forces marched toward Alexandria, determined to end the threat posed by Antony and Cleopatra once and for all. The defeat at Actium destroyed any hope Cleopatra had of reclaiming her empire. As Octavian's forces closed in, Cleopatra was faced with an impossible choice: surrender or die fighting. In the face of inevitable defeat, Cleopatra made the ultimate decision. Rather than allow herself and Antony to be paraded through Rome as captives, Cleopatra chose to take her own life. In August of 30 BCE, she and Antony both committed suicide. The exact circumstances of their deaths are unclear, but ancient sources suggest that Cleopatra died by the bite of an asp, a snake that symbolized her connection to Egypt and its ancient culture. Antony, too, died by his own hand. Their deaths marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the fall of Egypt as an independent kingdom. Octavian, soon to be known as Augustus, became the first Roman emperor, and Egypt was absorbed into the Roman Empire. Cleopatra's reign may have ended in tragedy, but her legacy as one of history's most intelligent and politically savvy rulers lives on. She was not merely a figurehead, but a queen who understood the complexities of power and was able to navigate the turbulent waters of Roman politics to secure her place on the world stage. She was a woman who spoke multiple languages, understood economics, and ruled with an intellect that matched some of the greatest leaders of her time. Her ability to form powerful alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony demonstrated her keen strategic mind, as well as her charisma and political instincts. While she is often remembered for her relationships with these Roman leaders, Cleopatra's role as a monarch of Egypt was equally significant. She sought to restore Egypt to its former glory and protect its independence against the encroaching power of Rome. In the centuries following her death, Cleopatra's image has been shaped by the legends and myths surrounding her life. Often portrayed as a seductress or a femme fatale, the true complexity of her character is sometimes overshadowed by romanticized depictions in literature and film. But Cleopatra was far more than a beautiful woman. She was a shrewd ruler who sought to protect her people and her kingdom in an era when empires rose and fell with the stroke of a sword. Her story is one of survival, ambition, and the pursuit of power in a world that sought to suppress her. Cleopatra's life may have ended in tragedy, but her impact on the world has endured for centuries. Her image as the last pharaoh of Egypt, a woman who ruled with intelligence, ambition, and a deep understanding of politics, continues to captivate the imaginations of people around the world. She represents the complexity of leadership, the strength of a woman in a male-dominated world, and the inexorable march of history. Her legacy lives on, not just in the history books, but in the way we continue to see her, as a symbol of power, resilience, and the indomitable will of a ruler who shaped the fate of Egypt and the ancient world. Cleopatra may have fallen, but her name will forever echo through the annals of history.